Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, in our countdown of the top 10 champions of each class, so I give you both my servers rankings, and then I'm going to go into more detail on my own rankings. And for those of you who are interested in it, this is just me. This is not our monthly tier list that I often do that has the whole influence and the advice and the oversight of the MCoC Illuminati. This is just me, my own personal rankings along with my servers. We do this semi-annually in December and then now in June. I've done the mutant top 10, had a lot of fun with that, and now it is time for tech. Just to give you an idea of where we were coming from in December of last year, my server had number 1 Nimrod, number 2 Ghost, 3 Warlock, 4 Omega Sentinel, 5 Guardian, 6 Ultron, 7 Infamous Iron Man, 8 Penny Parker, 9 Nebula, and 10 Guillotine 2099. It's really interesting to see where we were and where we are now at. And then my own personal rankings, I had Ghost and Warlock, Ghost and Nimrod as a tie, 3 Warlock, 4 Mega Sentinel, 5 Ultron, Guardian, Infamous Iron Man, Penny Parker, Hulkbuster, and Doc Ock. Kind of regret that one a little bit, but hey, you know, I'm not going to go through the honorable mention for last year's rankings, but I will list them for ours. Like I said, I'll give my servers rankings, then mine, and a little bit of the honorable mentions. So the honorable mentions for my server, we had Shocker, Yondu, Punisher 99, and Lady Deathstrike. I think they really feel strongly that she's gonna be good. Aiden did a really nice write-up on her. It made a lot of sense, so I can see that. But she's not even fully in the game yet, so I think honorable mention's a nice place for her. That makes a lot of sense. And then they really didn't have a number 10. Those 4 were just so grouped together and clearly a tier down from the other 9. So we'll move on to my honorable mention. My honorable mentions were Vision, Nebula, Hulkbuster, War Machine, Mysterio, Shocker. Now I was like, why did I write Sorcerer? That doesn't make sense. And Guillotine 2099. I think all those champions have arguments to be in that lower portion of the top 10. They make a lot of sense. They all do different things. The one I will mention is Guillotine 2099. If another Abyss sort of thing comes out and she's good for it, I think we'll see her stock skyrocket. And I will reflect that, of course, in the monthly rankings that I do with the Illuminati. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I told you the number 10 for the server. All right, now my number 10, I think, is going to shock a lot of people. And I know I'm going to get some feedback on this, but it is my truth. It is my reality. It's Infamous Iron Man. Now, I think a lot of this has to do with the expectations, right? I already know some of the other lists and the rankings that have been coming out, and it was surprising to see where they were. And a lot of it was due to where I think we expected them to be. Infamous Iron Man, and we read through the kit, and you know, this is a Doom Iron Man combination with outrageously high prestige. I think there was just so much expectation. I know I had a lot, and you've heard me kind of give the critique, and I want to make this clear right now, though. We're talking about the top 10 champions in the class of this game. This game is massive. Being in the top 10 is really, really good. So any nitpicking you hear or critique is just that. It's nitpicking because we have to differentiate between them. He's got those really great immunities. Now, you've heard me say this, you've caught enough of my streams or videos, is it feels like, you know, I've heard the term power budget used a lot. It feels like a lot of it went into beating Bishop, which is nice. It's good to have a champion who can defeat Bishop. It is. But it feels like I want more elsewhere, right? Like if he had the nullify ability, or if it turned from an active armor up into a passive or something like that, and that allowed him to keep some of his other utility, I would really like it. Now, he is a fun champion to play. I thought, and when I talked about him towards the end of last year, I was like, I have a feeling we're going to start seeing a lot of mutants that are getting that double prowess or nodes or something like that, and it's just not happening. I think if it does, then you're going to see his stock also skyrocket. He's got the nice immunities. I wish there was just a little bit more. I don't know how else to put that. I'm not even necessarily asking for more damage, just if he could keep some of his immunities or something like that, I think he would go up considerably. I think there's just often times where you find yourself wishing the damage was maybe a little bit more, but if you go to the SB3, it's really good. So like I said, top 10 champion, he's there. He's just not hitting those expectations. I think that's why to some of us in the community, he feels like a bit of a disappointment. Okay, let's move on to number 9. My number 9 champion is actually Penny Parker. My server has Vision, and I had Vision in the honorable mention. A lot of the people who are most vocal are really liking her. I've actually kind of talked with them, and I've seen them saying, like, I think there's some rigidity to her. There's a little bit that I wish was a bit more, or a little bit more flexible. They've got some ideas. I'm curious to see Vision when her rebalancing comes in, and if she does get a little bit of a rebalance kind of for the upward direction, it'd be nice. I do respect that she's very good though, that's why I had her in the honorable mention. Now, Penny Parker, I love Penny Parker. My biggest complaint about Penny is that what if the opponent is immune to Incinerate? And I know a lot of folks will say like, well, that's an issue with a lot of champions, you know? And you're right. But again, this is a top 10 list. I'm looking for the flaws or the critiques. And that's it with her, right? She keeps her immunities. I really love her. I've actually found myself using her more offensively in Battlegrounds lately than defensively, mainly because Hulkling, Gallon, champions like that, Gore, are staples in Battlegrounds decks. So using her defensively has worked out really well for champions where I need those immunities, or she's got the nice heal block. So she's a great champion. And then if you pair her up with some of her synergies, you can decrease her ramp significantly and sometimes just go straight to that SP2. I really like her. I think she's a well-made champion. And yeah, I actually value her more than I do Infamous Iron Man. Let's go ahead and move on to the number 8. My number 8 and the server's number 8 are actually both Guardian. Now, I know a lot of people really like him, even if he's not Awakened. Personally, for me to have him this high at the number 8, he needs to be Awakened and he needs to be at that very high sig. We do see him sometimes still in Battlegrounds as a big nuke with that SP2. He's relatively fast. And he can be a problematic defender if you don't have a way of removing that armor, right, with the armor break or the nullify or something like that. So it's kind of a unique scenario because he's got the auto block and things, but there's just so many mystics in decks that often they can handle it. So I don't want to label him as this great defender. I don't want to say the game is passing him by because I definitely don't think he is, and I still have him at number 8, but I will point out that I feel like the other champions that are above him are starting to, in many cases or in some cases, eating into it. Like a Venn diagram, they're almost overseeing him. I've talked about this with some other champions like Apocalypse, although Apocalypse is a lot farther along, but hopefully you caught the Mutant video as well, where there's so much powerful utility packed into what they do, and they're still great and they're holding on, but as more champions come out, it feels like we're being asked to do a small part of their utility. And I feel like that's happening with Guardian, right? With the high energy resistance or the non-crit or the ability, you know, he can parry non-contact attacks, but as a community, we've gotten a lot better at reparry. I know I have, and I see it a lot more in videos and streams and things like that, or even from just talking to you. So I think maybe the problems he solved or what he brought to the table, we're starting to have in other champions. He's far from done with the game. I think he's still a very worthy rank up, but as someone who was a huge fan from him the day he came out, recognized how good he is, I've left mine at rank 3 and I really don't have any issues or desires to rank him to rank 4 immediately. If I already did, I'd be happy about it and I think he was a valuable rank, but right now I'm not in a hurry. So I think 8 is good, and like I said, this is the end of a tier for me. There's definitely a large jump up as we get to number 7. All right, for me, number 7, and I will tell you right now, my number 7, 6, and 5, I think are completely interchangeable depending on just what you wanted. This is kind of what I was talking about, where like it feels like the other champions are forming this Venn diagram right over Guardian, and they're better. Like we talk about the difference between specialized and niche. Number 7 on my servers list was actually Ultron, so that makes sense. And you're going to see Ultron in my list too. I also really believe this. I believe if I had to place a bet right now, if I could bet, I would bet that we see Shuri at least at the top of this tier, potentially as our number 4, 3 tech champion when this year is over. Now, no more tech champions will come out. Lady Deathstrike we know is coming, or could be more. So I want to keep that open. But Shuri is interesting to me, and here's a couple of reasons why. She has a lot of nuggets of utility, right? With her ability actually not being able to be reduced, makes her great for Domino, but then there could be other situations. She has a non-contact attack, which makes her an annoying defender, right? There's ways to handle her, Hercules, of course. But also, that can allow you to play a bit more aggressively because you're most likely not going to get parried. Also, she has a massive buildup, meaning like when a new Abyss sort of thing comes out, I could see her possibly being good. We'll have to see what the format is and the ruling and the defenders. But she, you know, if they're all shock immune, then she's going to have some problems. But her ramp was increased considerably. Now, she's not going to ever be considered a nuke. I've been using her in Battlegrounds. I have a rank 2 on Dupe Shuri. She's been phenomenal and I love her. And she doesn't get the dex buff, but made her really nice for this last meta that we had. Can use her to take wrenches and things like that, but it still takes some time. You're not going to see her doing these 40-second fights, 50-second fights, you know, at least not right now anyways. And so I think her ramp up was reduced considerably while not really changing the ceiling too much, or at least leaving the ceiling at an incredibly high level. I do look forward to getting out more videos on Shuri, or some videos on Shuri, as I get to understand her better. And right now, just on my early testing on these sorts of things and playing, trying to get through Battlegrounds, I truly believe that we're going to see her higher up in the rankings. It's just, I'm not confident in it enough yet to tell you with full confidence, hey, she's number 4 or number 3 or number 5. So I think this is a great place for her, but she's very clearly in this tier, which I do feel is very different. Let's move on to the number 6. Okay, my server has Infamous Iron Man here. As you know, I just disagree. Now, I can understand a lot of people like him. I see the value in him, but I actually have him as a full tier different. So that's fine. They really like him. I respect that. I get that. For me, it's Warlock. He's aging very, very well. In fact, in any way, or in some ways, I feel like Battlegrounds has made him almost more valuable than he's ever been, except for maybe when he first came into the game, right? He was just so unique with so many of his abilities and things like that. And then, of course, you know, in war or in these PvP modes, where you know or have confidence that the defender is going to be running willpower, I think it heightens him considerably, makes him a tougher defender, and it does help him offensively depending on the SIG levels and things like that. The dual immunities is fantastic. In fact, actually, he has 3. Let me confirm that. Yeah, he actually has 3, and with Iceman getting a buff, this is a very helpful immunity. So I think Warlock's prestige in the game, his standing, I don't mean the numeric prestige of MCoC, but just his carrying his weight, let's call it, I think is still very, very high. We keep thinking, or I keep thinking it's going to fall off, but then when I do these rankings, I'm like, no, actually, I don't know why I still don't have mine at rank 4. I think he's fantastic. He's phenomenal. I'm very excited that he won the 7-star vote. He's someone that I am definitely going to be wanting to get, even without that awakened ability. I just, that's what he clearly brings to the table. We see him in the VBC, my championships, my tournament championships, people using him to take out dominoes and things like that. So the guy's value is still good. I mean, I'm looking at the date. He came to the game in 2019. Very, very impressive as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's move on to the number 5. My server's number 5 ranking was Warlock. We obviously just talked at length about Warlock. You know how much I value him. So I think that's fine. That makes sense. We don't need to cover that more. Now, my number 5 is Ultron. Ultron's really interesting to me because he doesn't have a lot of like prestige in this game. He feels like someone where his buff kind of went under the radar, or in fact, if anything, now that I'm thinking about it, what happened is his buff, he was bugged and he was doing more. And so I think everyone knew that he was going to kind of get fixed, and then he did. And then we all just kind of forgot about him. He still does phenomenal damage. And as you get his signature ability up, he doesn't gain more immunities, but those incinerating shock effects suffering a reduced duration combined with Ultron's heal adds up to something very, very powerful when you consider that he's already dual immune to begin with. He has some very nice synergies, mainly with that beautiful meteor synergy, if you take a look at it right here. And then also the synergy with all those robots, being Dragon Man and Gilly 29. And he has some other very powerful synergies too. I really like him, and he's got a little bit of flavor of those robot hunting mutants, where instead of placing his bleed, he places the degen, and that's also, you got to factor in the utility and the damage he's getting off of his heavy, his SP1 and his SP2. He's a champion I very, very much like. I guess I never invested in him. I took him to the rank 3 and kind of played around with him and stuff like that, but he's someone that if he came in the 7-star pool, I would also be very excited about. I think he's very powerful. I think he's great. You know, he and Warlock could really be interchanged, as like I said, as well as Shuri. I do think Shuri, though, the way the game is going, will kind of overstep both of them, because I think she's a better specialist, where I think they're a little bit more utility machines, and the game's not often asking us to have all of that utility in one single fight. Okay, now we've moved on to number 4, and for me, this was another big tier jump. For me, like, noticeable. The only champion in the lower tier that, again, I think could possibly move up here is Shuri. I don't see that happening with Ultron and Warlock. They've been in the game a while. There'd have to be some big things coming out. I think it's more likely we see other new champions, or a champion like Shuri moving up. Now, my number 4 on the servers was Omega Sentinel. I'll talk about Omega Sentinel in a little bit. Future Antman, I was wrong on him. Now, BMcG had been telling me how great he thought he was. Had been showing us the videos and things like that. Well, now I'm having to fight Future Antman in Battlegrounds. I'm seeing the war videos. I'm seeing B do his full-length videos on Future Antman, and I have to say, I want one. This is a 6-star that right now, as we're speaking, if I pulled him, I would be actively trying to get him to rank 4 as soon as possible. And definitely potentially, even in this world where 7 stars are clearly dominant, I would still be trying to rank up my future Ant-Man to rank 5, you know, depending on July 4th offers and that sort of thing. These aren't like true immunities that appear, as you can see from the signature ability, but they obviously are very, very good. And the thing I like about him and where I was really wrong is I thought he would be slow. And power control champions, especially combat power control champions, when they're slow, I feel like they often can get into trouble, or when it's that or sort of scenario, right? It was kind of like America Chavez, why I did not like her that much before her buff. It's just like, eventually things catch up to you if that's what you're doing. You still have to end the fight relatively fast. Well, not only is he not slow, he's actually pretty fast, and we're seeing tremendous things out of future Ant-Man. And then he has that AI manipulation, right? Making them more aggressive, and that plays in very, very well to his play style. And then if Battlegrounds is something you're interested, he is a pretty good defender. We're seeing him cause a lot of problems with when you remove the armor up, it becomes a passive, and then he still has that glancing mechanic. And then of course, Gallon can't take him out, right? Everyone remember that. I'm still sometimes seeing people try to use Gallon for him. We're so used to Gallon destroying these champions. Well, Gallon can't. Future Ant-Man's got that thing where, you know, one hit or one source can't really destroy him. And in fact, I think he then heals up. So he's a phenomenal champion. I really do want him. He's someone I would look to rank 4 as soon as possible, and potentially rank 5. My server's number 3 was future Ant-Man. Mine is Omega Sentinel, and they're kind of in their own little tier here in both the server's vote tally and in mine. Now, Omega Sentinel, I love her. I really enjoy playing her. I don't mind the refresh. There's something about playing her slowly that I actually kind of like. It just feels so safe in the fights that you're using for. You can run her with recoil, you can run her without. She has a very high attack value, so she's often doing a lot of damage even when you can't throw her specials. I will probably get a video on her and using her specifically in war with this attacker tactic, because I do know that it eventually makes its way to other tiers, and there's some fights that you definitely have to take in a very specific way, and if you don't, you're going to end up in trouble because of the defender tactic as well. I really like this champion. Now, right now, and she's got that heal block. I've used her for a ton of stuff. She was phenomenal for me in Grandmaster's Gauntlet as well. Took a ton of fights. I could see her losing her spot, though. This is one where I told you I think Shuri would rise. This is one where I think future Ant-Man is so good that if I had my own and I had hands-on experience with him, based on what I'm seeing and the really smart players I know and what they're telling me, I could see him moving above her. But she's got a lot. She's got that heal block. She's got an anti-miss, and she has the ability to do significant damage without having to move through her debuffs and her utility. So she can focus on one and still do a good amount of damage, especially if you just work on refreshing it and then go to your SP3, let that do your damage, and then you just keep them going. I love Omega Sentinel. Okay, she's my number 2. In the video last year, I know I got a lot of negative comments about this. I know Ghost has her fans. I get it. I totally understand. What you all don't know is, because I didn't have a YouTube channel yet, is I had Ghost as a 5-star when she first came into the game. I was using her to take out war bosses and things like that. I understand how good she is. I was terrible at this game, given the plays I was playing. I was playing in tier 1. I was a terrible tier 1 player, but I had Ghost. And so I could take like 8 fights. They would just send me like, here, Vega, go do this thing. And I would take them all out and I would take down the war boss. So trust me, I get it. I understand. I host my own high tier Battlegrounds championship. I see what she does. I see what better players are capable of. I 100% understand. And she's phenomenal. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is see that number 2 is really, really good. It's really, really good. And this is not just about like how high her highs are, because they are phenomenal and she's amazing, but it's about a place in the game and how frequent they can be used and what the game is often asking us to do, which leads me to both my and my server's number 1, which is Nimrod. And this is something that you're going to kind of see as I've started doing all of the rankings. I don't have all the videos out, but you're going to kind of start to see this is the game has kind of matured in a way. I really believe this. And I keep talking about specialized versus niche, where we're often one of these specialized champions because that's what's being asked of us. So these generally dominant champions that are potentially broken, like let's say Ghost, are they still great? And yeah, if we just maybe listed out all their abilities, or I'm not sure what the right way to break it down is, they appear to be the best. But then when you play the game and you go through the whole variety of it, there's champions that feel more valuable. Maybe consider this like a most valuable player versus an offensive MVP. Because yeah, Ghost is probably my offensive MVP. But my overall MVP for the tech class is Nimrod, and that's how I chose to do my rankings. He obviously destroys mutants. I've been telling you, I also pulled him early, ranked him up early. I've got those videos out. It's just been a long time. But one of the things I kept trying to get across, and I was telling you all, was it's not just mutants. Where there's healing and where there is prowess, he is going to obliterate it. And we were seeing prowess more and more and more. And just like I thought, we continued to see it on nodes, right? And these sorts of things. He's phenomenal. And I just used him on Ebb and Flow Intercept Killmonger. And I played it very poorly. But he's tanky. I was able just to calm myself down, survive. I got to my SP3s. He heals up. And he has passive shock damage. So they have to actually just be immune to shock itself. Otherwise, he's going to obliterate him. That's why he still even works against Red Magneto. Frequent commenter and video commenter OYC was the first one to point that out. It was like, oh, he's going to work for Magneto too, because it's going to be a passive shock. Nimrod's the king. He's the king of the tech class. Maybe someone will dethrone him eventually. Maybe the game will grow enough. Or I would love to see this. Kabam, stop making mutants with prowess. I understand that that is part of like their defining characteristics, but not all Mystic champions nullify. So maybe we get some mutants that don't have prowess. Could work. Either way, thank you so much for watching. We're going to do some more. We have, I believe, Mystic and Cosmic coming out very, very soon. So make sure you check the playlist for this. I'm just putting them in with my champions rankings with my monthly tier list. We will get back to that next month, but we will continue on doing all the classes. Then we're going to do the top champions from 2022. We're going to update that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then, of course, the top 20 champions in the whole game. Let us know what you think we got right. Let us know what you think we got wrong. I do enjoy reading the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.